welcome all members and officers to this meeting of Democratic Services, which, due to government advice to continue practice social distancing, will be held virtually. The meeting is being recorded and will be available via the Council's website to be viewed as soon as is possible following the meeting. Everyone participating in the meeting will be accessing this meeting from remote locations. Please could everybody ensure that mobile phones are switched off or to silent mode. Members will have received an electronic copy of the agenda. I will ask officers to present a summary of the key points. For the record, the agenda can be viewed on the Council's website. Members and officers will be speaking at various points during the meeting, and those speaking may switch their cameras on at that point. But I would ask that, with the exception of myself as chairperson, at all other times you keep your cameras and microphones switched off, as this will help to minimise any background noise and interference and to ensure the connection remains as stable as possible. If any members and officers wish to raise a point or question, they should press the hands up icon on the screen hand at the top right hand of the Microsoft Teams window, and I will come to you in the order I receive requests. Please do not use your microphone until I invite you to do so. Please lower your hand once you have finished speaking. It should be noted that the chat button has been disabled for this meeting. Officers from Democratic Services will be supporting the meeting and will be monitoring the use of microphones throughout the meeting, and where necessary will mute those not being used. Before we formally commence, I will now ask the officer from Democratic Services to announce the names of the councillors in attendance at this meeting. I would also ask the officers to introduce themselves as and when I invite them to speak during the course of the meeting. They too should ensure microphones and cameras are switched off when not in use. Okay.
Thank you, Chair. Members in attendance today are Councillor Alex Williams, Councillor Elaine Venables as Chair, Councillor Carrie Thomas, Councillor Richard Young, Councillor Sean Aspie even, and I think that's it, Chair.
Okay, that's great. Thank you very much. So we'll now go to agenda item 1, apologies for absence.
I've had apologies from Councillor Gareth Howells, Chair, and Councillor Malcolm James.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone else have any apologies? Okay. Item 2, declarations of interest. Does anybody need to make a declaration? Okay, thank you. And then item 3, the approval of minutes.
Move.
Okay, thanks, Gary. Thank you. I think Councillor Smith has just joined the meeting. Do you have any declarations of interest, Councillor Smith?
No, I don't. Apologies for the day. Just a couple of updates that didn't go through quick enough. Sorry about that.
Okay, no worries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Right then, item 4 is the member development programme. So I think, Mark, are you going to take us through this? Mark, are you disappeared?
Sorry, apologies, Chair. I was on mute and camera off, so you wouldn't have heard anything what I just said. Apologies. The purpose of this report is to provide the committee with an update on the Council's member training and development programme and to identify topics for inclusion as part of this programme moving forward. By way of some background, members, increasing attention has been given to elected member development under the Measure 2011, which has directed that local authorities place more emphasis on this important area as training initiatives. Paragraph 4.1 of the report outlines member and development sessions provided since the last committee meeting in March 2021. Paragraph 4.2 then contains details of the briefing sessions provided again since the last committee meeting, with it noted that the CUMTAF Morgano Test, Trace and Protect programme having generated some particular interest from members for obvious reasons. Paragraph 4.3, Chair then lists DC Development Control Committee training sessions provided within this time period also. In terms of future scheduled briefings, members have been scheduled in paragraph 4.41 of the report, primarily as part of Council meeting agenda business. Council will also receive quarterly debates on topical items, as has also been agreed. The next section of the report details further member training and development sessions, and I can add some further topics to these on dates to be confirmed, namely on local government finance, going digital, improving outcomes for the Jones programme, well-being of staff members, and elected members too, actually, fraud awareness and climate emergency. I'm also pursuing similar sessions on the work of Arwen Trust and Halo, which are, as members know, arms of the authority. Future Development Control Committee sessions are contained in paragraph 4.6 of the report, members, with further sessions also planned during the topics of flooding and coastal erosion, tree policy, including tree preservation orders, public rights of way and bridleways, garden space and buildings in gardens, and building in conservation areas. These are topics that we're going to consider down the line. Next section of the report outlines e-learning opportunities for members. Member development and training is very important. I think it's extremely important. It's one of the biggest things that I try to drive forward. It allows members to gain more knowledge in areas of local government work, which in turn leads to improved debate and decision making at meetings. And improved knowledge also assists when members provide guidance and support to their constituents. I take then members to the recommendations of the report at paragraph 9.1 with an added caveat that any further suggestions as to areas where members think further training is required, then please feel free to contact me on outside of the meeting, and I will pursue these with the appropriate directors and heads of service, etc. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. So can someone move the recommendation?
Move the report.
Thank you. And second it?
Second.
Okay, does anyone have any comments on the report or questions? Or any topics and briefings that you would actually like to see come to council in the future?
Sorry, Chair. Yeah, I think it might be just as well to have a briefing about the 2030 strategy at some point, because I'm not sure if all councillors understand that.
Sorry, I didn't catch that, Richard. The what?
Sorry, the 2030 strategy, which is the strategy behind the Carbon Reduction Programme Board. I think most councillors know about it, but I'm not sure if they fully understand it and what it means. And I'm just thinking that as we are moving towards the climate crisis that we've declared ourselves, we haven't had a briefing yet on the strategy that was meant to combat that. Thank you, Chair.
Can I come just in there quickly, Chair? Yeah. It was remiss of me. That session, Councillor Young, is pending. It'll be two sessions actually. I won't be arranging this. It's Gareth Club in Communities.
Yeah.
And an external provider. Yeah, very important session. They're going to be split into two actually. So yes, that's definitely in the pipeline, Councillor Young.
Thank you for that, Chair, and thank you, Mark. Perhaps I missed it when you said it. I must have dropped off at that point.
I don't think I did say it. My apologies.
That's okay.
But it is definitely in the pipeline, and it's imminent as well. It'll be within the next month or so.
Oh, thanks. When I thought that you said it, I thought I'd gone seen it. Thank you, man.
No.
So what's that going to be then, Mark? That's going to be like sort of additional training. It's not going to be a pre-council, a briefing or something, is it? It's going to be
No,
standalone.
It won't be part of council. It'll be an ad hoc training session, but there'll be certificates and everything. It's such a big thing. It'll be a little bit more than the normal run-of-the-mill member development session that we organise from time to time on topical issues. I think we got one tomorrow on the ALNet Act. We've got a few outstanding, but I need to keep the momentum going on these sessions, and I need to keep plugging with officers to drive things forward, because officers are very busy, heads of service and directors. But I'm thinking if I can get one member development session a month at least going, then we're doing the job, and we're kind of assisting members in gaining knowledge and on different topical areas of the council. And as we all know, knowledge makes us all better in terms of what we can pass on to others, and consider when we take part in debate and support our constituents too. It's
When you read out the list, Mark, you said local government, finance, well-being. I didn't quite catch it. You said something about Jones report or something.
Yeah, the Jones, the improving outcomes for the Joneses programme. It's something to do with social services.
Right.
But I don't know exactly what the full extent of that member development session is. But if I could certainly find out, Chair, if you want to know that outside the meeting.
Okay, yeah, that'd be great. Okay, right. If nobody else has any other comments on item 4, we will move on then to item 5. I presume.
Sorry, Elaine, can I just come in?
Sorry, Alex. Yeah.
Alex here. Perhaps I can be just a little bit controversial, as I normally am, and just ask Mark for his view on how we sort of promote member attendance at these development events, because you put in an awful lot of work to put them on, and officers give up their time to attend. And I'm conscious of the fact that members don't necessarily attend because it's not coupled to a formal meeting of council. So, as a group leader myself, I'll do my best to ensure that I cascade to my group the need to, or the benefits of attending these member development sessions. But is there anything else that we could do, perhaps, to encourage attendance by putting them? I know the thing is, I know meetings can be lengthy anyway without adding member development sessions before them, but I'm just thinking about encouraging attendance so that all of your hard work doesn't go to waste, really.
I think through your group meetings, Councillor Williams, would be a good idea for group leaders to infiltrate down the importance of attending member development and training sessions, because they are important. They cover areas of the council. They cover new legislation that comes in, but they are purely by invite only. They're not kind of mandatory sessions that members have to attend. They're not even, well, they are essential, but I could certainly do a general email to all members, if you so wish, saying that member development sessions are arranged for a purpose, and that they should be as well attended as possible by members. Other than that, because they're not mandatory, there's nothing really we can do other than those two avenues, through group leaders cascading down to their members, and I will get in touch with the standalone independent members, obviously, or me doing an email generally, stressing the importance of attending.
Yeah, I think I agree, Mark. But this is kind of my concern, really, is that you tend to see, without meaning to be patronising to my colleagues, you tend to see the same people at all of these member development sessions, and unless they're mandatory, I fear that all members are not necessarily gaining the benefit of these sessions. So, you know, as I say, I'll do my best to ensure that my group members do attend, but I think perhaps coupling them together with other formal meetings of council will encourage more attendance. So that, I think that needs to be borne in mind, and maybe as well seeking wider, I suppose we do this on occasion, but perhaps seeking ideas from our group members about what they would like to see at these sessions would be helpful. So I'll commit to doing that as well.
I think that when we were live in the office attending meetings, and as you alluded to, Councillor Williams, we'd add on a session, perhaps a pre-council presentation, which would be well attended because members are coming in for council, and anything else where we'd hold a session such as this on a day where there may be another meeting, that was fine as well, because you could have a meeting in the afternoon, you could have a meeting in the morning and a break in between, that was fine. I think while we're working remotely and members have made sounds that they don't want too much screen time in one day, that's the difficulty of attaching these sessions onto other meetings, like such as pre-council presentations, because then we get the criticism that members get tired. I definitely think 100%, this is my view only, that when you're in a meeting in an auditorium live, I somehow think there's a better feeling about the meeting, people apply themselves more. I get the feeling that when we're doing remote meetings, that application is not there perhaps. And also, in my experience so far, meetings remotely tend to go on longer than meetings when we held them in the committee rooms and the council chamber. And you made a good point, Councillor Williams, at the last council meeting, where, you know, Valleys to Course unfortunately went on for an inordinate length of time on their presentation. And really speaking, then the rest of the agenda, which was quite big, we were playing catch up on, and then it culminated in a meeting lasting 4 hours plus. And members and officers are exhausted by that time. They can't apply themselves properly to the reports in front of them, which takes away, to a degree, good decision making. So it's a bit of a mixed bag, you know, if I can put it that way.
Thanks, Mark. Councillor Young, do you want to come in?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Yeah, indeed. I as Mark said, when we were live in the chamber, we used to have the member presentations and the development meetings prior to full council. Excuse me, something wrong with me this morning. The problem was that, and I chaired quite a few of those, to be honest with you, I discovered that on certain items the attendance was patchy even then. And of course the age-old maxim that members were working was normally. So I don't think that there's a good time, to be honest with you, that development for members. You're always going to find that there are going to be certain members that can't attend anyway. But I do accept Councillor Williams's point. I think it's well made. And I do accept the fact that Mark is probably the right way around. I think it's up to the leaders of the various groups to say, look, you know, you have committed to be a councillor to represent people. You need to be make sure that you are fully informed on all aspects of the local authority to ensure that you can represent your constituents to the maximum that you can. So I'm not sure what the answer is, other than I support what Mark said. If the leaders can go back and ensure that their groups are fully in the knowledge that the leaders themselves are saying to their group members, you should attend these. But I don't think that you can make. I don't think you can make it mandatory, to be honest with you.
Also, Chair. Sorry to interrupt. Also, Chair. I think that's like anything. Some members are more interested in some topics than they are in others. So then for those member development sessions, you're going to have more interest, whereas you might not on others that don't touch the spot with members. So you're always going to have a fluctuation of attendance. But I do agree with Councillor Williams. I think they should be more better attended, and we can do that through the group leaders. I can email the standalone independent members and go from there, possibly, really.
Okay, thanks, Mark. That's great then. We'll try that and see if there's any improvement. So moving on then to item 5, the candidate event.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. The purpose of this report, members, is to seek any views you may have to make in relation to the 2 potential candidate sessions we have up and coming early evening on both the 18th and 25th of November. The purpose of which is to give any members of the public who may have an interest in putting themselves forward to be a councillor a brief insight on what that role entails. The background to the report, members, advises of Local Democracy Week, which was taking place this month, and states the main purpose of that at paragraphs 3 in the report. Arising from that, there's been a directive to local authorities to consider holding potential candidate sessions, which can be attended by any constituents of Bridgend who may wish to have some information with regards to the role of a local member. The 2 sessions proposed on the above dates will be held early evening over the course of 2 consecutive weeks. As said, the sessions will consist of general topics split into 2 parts, as shown in paragraph 4.14 of the report, wrongly shown as paragraph 4.13 because 4.13 is above. The sessions will not so much be a question and answer session, members, but more in the way of briefings from the likes of the leader on what can be expected if you become a councillor, a briefing from the Chief Executive on what work the council covers in terms of its main service areas, etc. The Electoral Services Manager giving an update on the elections process, and Kelly, the Monitoring Officer, touching upon the likes of issues such as probity, code of conduct, and the process regarding possibly council decision making. There will also be a video played entitled "A Day in the Life of a Councillor," where we will have 2 or 3 of our members being involved in this. Would-be candidates will then be signposted to possibly members or key officers such as myself in Democratic Services for further details and information following the sessions. We are promoting these events as well as we can through a number of social media avenues, including on the website and through various bulletins, and also advise local members and town and community councillors to spread the word to anyone they feel would be interested in attending the events. To date, as of 5 p.m. last night, we have had 3 people interested in attending the first session and 6 in the second. The sessions will obviously be held remotely via Teams, and we will send out links to the interested would-be candidates so that they can join the meeting. I therefore take members to the report's recommendations and would invite any comments you wish to make on the report. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, so the recommendation is that the Democratic Services Committee considers the proposals and provides input for the prospective candidate events planned to take place in November. Can someone move the recommendation, please?
Move.
Thank you, and second it.
Second.
Thank you. So does anyone, oh, I see, yeah. Councillor Williams, you'd like to come in, please?
Do I? Okay. I will make some remarks. Elaine, I was going to wait for colleagues to come in first. I've given this some thought after being invited to take part in the event. I understand there's going to be a video of, as Mark has just explained, of 2 or 3 councillors explaining their role and the day in the life of a councillor, etc. Now, I can understand the rationale behind the council doing this for members of the public who may be interested. However, I am sceptical about whether local authorities themselves ought to be doing this, or whether it would be more the role of the WLGA in promoting this. You know, a number of videos have already been done across the United Kingdom, and I'm sceptical of whether we should be spending our budget on doing another video, which it seems to be particularly arduous. And as has been explained by Mark already, there is, you know, a very poor attendance from members of the public. In my experience, if people are energised to become community leaders and local government representatives, then they will do so, and they will look and seek out advice. For example, I have offered my services on social media on a number of occasions and hosted Zoom and Teams meetings for members of the Pencoed community who are interested in standing for election. They were very, very poorly attended, and these were free events. Now, I would be interested in knowing how much this has cost the local authority and what budget is attached to it, because if there are only 9 attendees, then perhaps we should dispense with the idea of 3 councillors giving a video, and perhaps 3 councillors merely attending that event and explaining to them exactly what we do. Because I'm concerned that we're outsourcing the video production for this event to an external party rather than doing it in-house. And I really do have to ask whether, given the financial pressures on some of our directorates, I know this comes from a different budget, the CEO's budget or the Democratic Services budget, but nevertheless, in a one council approach, we should possibly be diverting those funds to more appropriate places. So I'm sorry to sound sceptical about this. I know the idea is a good one in enhancing the democratic process and ensuring that everybody who's interested has the necessary information to make up their minds about whether they would like to put themselves on the ballot paper. But there are so many drawbacks. I think we could possibly do this kind of exercise in a different way.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Williams. Mark?
I think the photographer is going to cost in the region of about £800, I believe, for the 3 videos. I take on board what Councillor Williams says. I think the idea behind the video was to, if I go back to 2017, we had such an event there, but of course we were in the committee rooms then in the chamber. It gave potential candidates more of an opportunity, because what we had the dignitaries giving their speeches in the council chamber, but in between we had coffees for the would-be candidates in committee room 2-3, where they would mingle with Democratic Services staff, generate some sort of conversation about, you know, different service areas of the council. We'd kind of advise them what the role of a councillor is. It was general chit chat, but of course we can't do that this time round, and we can only do such an event which is directed, you know, as local. The local democracy week has been directed for councillors to arrange these events, right? It is a directive. So we're thinking with a remote session on this, which won't be as good as if you'd have a live session for the reasons I've just said. To kind of mix it up a little bit, whereby you have some speeches from dignitaries, and then this video is a kind of like something a little bit novel to throw in between. I don't know, the videos, the video of the members and the questions that they've been asked, they're not going into it blind. They have had some suggested questions. It's good in that the 3 we had originally, one's from a town, we've got 2 others from valley areas. You know, so it's a bit of a diverse kind of locations in the county borough. I don't know, Councillor Williams. I can kind of feed this back to Laura primarily and Kelly, and see what they say. Basically, I wouldn't say it's a big chunk out of the budget for the video clips to be undertaken, but maybe it just gives a different variety or a different element to the session overall, as opposed to just speeches, if you get my meaning. But I do take on board your comments.
Councillor Williams?
Yeah, thanks, Mark. I appreciate that. I know the cost of the video is small in comparison to, you know, the millions of pounds which the council spends, but every little helps. But so therefore I couldn't really support an event which is costing in excess of £100 per attendee. I think we could do it in a different way. I'd be more than happy to attend a question and answer session for those members those members of the community who attend these sessions. But I think to a certain extent, these kinds of videos, which Valley to Coast showed and all of these other organisations show, are somewhat of a vanity project. You know, other videos have been done in Pembrokeshire, in Lincolnshire, in all parts of the UK, which replicate exactly what we're trying to do here. And there's no necessity to have me or any other member, for that matter, speaking about our roles within our community. They're all similar. I'm happy to attend in person, but I couldn't support something which, you know, is going to cost in excess of £100 per attendee.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Williams. Does anybody else have any other comments on this event that's going to happen? No, I was just wondering, Mark, how long is the actual event going to be?
In the report, it says 2 hours, but I envisage it'll be less than that. It'll be probably about an hour and a half each session, and it's not designed as a question and answer session. That's definite. It's because that'll be long drawn out. People will get bored. The session will get tedious. It's about then a brief resume from the people involved, and then signposting the would-be candidates then to maybe some key members or officers such as myself to go into a bit more detail outside of the sessions on what they can expect in terms of being a local member.
Okay, and is the session, are the sessions going to be recorded and put on the website as well?
I don't know, but I don't see a problem with that.
Because I was just,
I don't know for definite whether they are.
Because if they're only going to be, you know, people talk, there's no question and answer, so there's no sort of privacy issue, is there, with the members of the public, I presume? Then if it can be recorded and put on the website, then that might alleviate Councillor Williams's concerns about monetary, because when I became a councillor, I don't think I got in touch with Democratic Services until the January before the elections or something. I suddenly had a panic about who to speak to and what to do. So it wasn't, I wasn't thinking about it at this time. So it might be.
Didn't you come in late though? You came in late, didn't you? Didn't you? Wasn't your application in late for? Because I remember us meeting. Didn't you put it in late? Yeah, it was. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I came in because I just hadn't really thought about it at this time in the year. For me, May seems like a long time away. So I just wondered if it can be put on the website, then maybe people who are toying with the idea and thinking about it would be able to view it in the future as well.
The one thing I will add as well, which may kind of assist Councillor Williams's point on the expenditure is that even though this was put on social media, the marketing team put it in such a way that it wasn't on the first front page. If you get my meaning, you'd have to go into a couple of pages on the web through a couple of links, which we felt wasn't appropriate because the public may not find it. So we've added since then some further avenues of publication of the event, which we think, because we're only talking about the 21st of October, the first one's 18th of November. I think that the numbers that are going to be interested will escalate. To what degree, I'm not sure, but certainly I'm anticipating more towards the kind of end of 20 over 2 sessions, at least. I'm hopeful, but we can't tell.
How many did you have in the 2017 lives? Approximately.
Approximately, I would say over, again, we had 2 sessions there. Best part of 20, I'd say, yeah, around 20. Yeah.
Okay, so does anyone else have any other comments on this item? Okay, I'm assuming not though, so we'll move on to item 6. Oh, hold on a minute. Really sorry, Mark. I did have a comment. It's sort of tied to item 6 and item 5. It was to do with the presentation when the chief exec is speaking to the new members about, but then it sort of is connected to item 6 and the induction programme, because I think what happened before was that a lot of people don't realise that the first week after the election is actually quite intense. There's a lot of training that's got to be done, and I actually remember when I was elected, a couple of people, it's that time of year, had booked holidays and had gone on holiday, so they missed a lot of the induction. And I was just wondering, in this sort of presentation candidate event, whether somebody could actually say to the prospective candidates that actually, the week after the election, there's going to be a lot of training and a lot of information that you have to, I think a lot of it's mandatory, isn't it? So you have to actually attend it as well. Anyway, sorry about that, everybody. So moving on then to item 6, which is the induction programme.
Yeah, we can certainly slip that in somewhere in the spiel. Yeah.
Okay, great.
Right, thanks, Chair. So the next is the member induction programme, yeah?
Yes.
Okay, Chair, the purpose of this report and members is to outline the draft member induction programme for 2022 for the benefit of members of this committee. Legislation dictates that member development training is a key element for councillors in terms of their learning and development. This is obviously particularly important for new members. A programme such as this is therefore essential so that members can quickly become familiar with how the council works, the rules and procedures under which it operates, and certain other issues key to fulfilling their role as part of the authority, and not only that, but their wider role within the communities they serve. Paragraph 4 of the report shows the 3 main phases of the programme, which forms the member induction programme, which is attached as an appendix to the report. I won't go through these phases, members. I'm sure you have read these prior to the meeting. To support the member induction programme, an information pack will also be provided to members following them signing an acceptance of office after they've been elected. In addition to the ongoing learning and development programme, a training needs analysis questionnaire will be compiled for members, whereby those completed and returned will be collated and presented to committee in due course. Further member training and development sessions aside of the member induction programme, as we've alluded to previously in this meeting, will be pursued through directorates by Democratic Services staff such as myself during the new term of office, as is currently the case, as topics of interest evolve and new legislation is introduced. So I take members to the recommendations of the report at paragraph 9.1. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, so the recommendation is the committee is to consider the report and provide its views on the draft member induction programme. Can someone move?
Move the report.
Thank you, and second it.
Second.
Thank you. So does anyone have any comments on this? Because this is quite a extensive programme. Councillor Williams?
Thanks. Yeah, I approve of the report, but I would suggest that there's a greater emphasis as well on the budget setting process and the council's finances and why we hold reserves. And I would expect that Jill's successor as Chief Officer for Finance, Performance and Change to cover this in her presentation to new members. But I still think that in some regards there isn't a sufficient enough knowledge amongst members, the existing members, not alone any new members, of the budget setting process and the medium-term financial strategy. So I'd like to see that emphasised in the induction programme. And they're just typographical errors, but there are a few duplications in the core functions. I think member referrals is mentioned twice and chairing meetings is mentioned twice or something like that. That's all.
Thank you, Councillor Williams. With regards to the budget, what you were just saying about, so there's introduction to Treasury Management, but that's only for Governance and Audit Committee, and there's financial awareness. You want something extra on top of that as well? Is that? Am I hearing you right?
Yeah, well, governance and audit is one thing, isn't it? And it's a specialist committee, so it's important that all members know what the role and functions of that committee are. But clearly, all of us have a responsibility at full council to approve capital management reports, like we did yesterday, to inspect Treasury management outturns. I don't think there's a sufficient enough understanding of that. It may be the case that we can pick that up in future member briefing sessions after the new intake of councillors come in as well. But perhaps in the induction programme, it can be emphasised a little more.
And do you think, because the financial awareness isn't until the sort of end of June, do you think it needs to be sooner than that, or do you think that's adequate for? Yeah.
I think, Chair, that the front end of the induction programme is essential in that a lot of that is needed before we hold the annual meeting of council and
right.
we set committees. That's the issue there, because there's some mandatory training that members will have to sit on certain statutory and regulatory committees where, and statutory and regulatory committees, as members I'm sure are aware, where there's anything appealable against the council, such as planning applications through development control, licensing through taxi drivers having their badges revoked, which they can appeal through the Magistrates Court, and of course appeals panels where a member of the an employee of the authority could be dismissed and they can challenge through any industrial tribunal. If you look at the we've got standards in public life code of conduct. Well, that is essential for members before they get into any kind of auditorium for meetings. You know, so that members are well behaved, which they always are. I got to say, in this, especially in this term, and I'm being honest there. And then you've got the member induction programme, how to hit the ground running as a new member. That's an external facilitator, which is Bethan Evans, which members may recall done a briefing on the Code of Conduct and the Local Government Elections Bill in recent times. She's an ex-lawyer and an excellent external provider. The general outline of committees, that'll be done kind of by myself and other Democratic Services staff, where we just outline what the committee structure is, the terms and remit of the committee, the powers of decision making they have. There's the learning development then on the corporate induction and DSE and the code of conduct. They're all kind of mandatory. So it's the front part of it is intense and stacked up in a relatively short period of time, but it's essential to hit committees that we set at council, and we allocate members to those committees. And then the rest then is, as I say, licensing committee, development control committee, which is mandatory, scrutiny chairing skills, which is essential. And don't forget, I know a lot of you members have been here a few terms at least, and people like members like Councillor Young have been here a very good while. But we got new members coming in now, and this is all new to them. It's going to be intense. It's going to be a bit frightening, but it's necessary to carry on to the next phases of the work the council will proceed to do, you know, and but I take on board, it is a bit light on the finance, so I take on board Councillor Williams's points, and of course this is in draft format. It will be subject to change. And we've already put these calendar appointments in key officers and external providers, because the WLGA will be involved in scrutiny chairing and things like that. So, but I take on board what Councillor Williams has said, and we'll take that away, and I will feed back to people a bit higher than me.
Okay, that's great. Thanks, Mark. Does anyone else have any other comments on the induction programme? No. Okay, right, so we'll move on now to item 7, which is the IRP, the Independent Remuneration Panel.
I don't know whether I should say I've kept the best till last, Chair. I suppose that's personal opinions by people. Yes, the IRP report. The purpose of this report, members, is for you to consider the Independent Remuneration Panel for Wales draft annual report for 2022 to 23 for consultation. The report is shown in its entirety at Appendix A to the covering report. I won't dwell on this item, members, as though it's a very important report. I would rather use the time for members to give their observations on the contents of this. We will then collate these either through debate at today's meeting or separately through members emailing me outside of the meeting or Laura Griffiths, and list these in an email we can eventually send to the IRPW by the closing date of receipt of any comments and representations, which is the 26th of November next. We can have this email signed off then, Chair, by yourself as Chair of Democratic Services Committee on behalf of committee members based on the observations they give. I would like to touch upon some key elements of the IRPW report, however. Members will note that some time ago, members' salary was to a degree aligned to the median wage of others, known as ASH, which is the annual survey of hourly earnings. However, for a number of years, that was aborted, mainly due to the continuation of austerity and certain other reasons. In time for the forthcoming elections, though, and to increase members' salaries more in keeping with that of their constituents, the IRWP feels the basic salary of councillors should be reset once more to align with ASH. Hence, a member's basic salary, it is proposed by the IRWP, will increase going forward from 14,368 currently to 16,800 in the new term of office. The next section of the report talks about senior salaries, such as the leaders of local authorities, the executive, i.e. cabinet, and chairs of committees, which have increased salaries due to their roles as a local member, having some added responsibility of varying degrees within the confines of the authority and wider. These salaries are outlined under determination 2 on page 33 of the report and overleaf, including that for political group leaders and civic roles. The report then, members, highlights the making available of equipment to councillors by local authorities in order they may fully be able to discharge their functions as a local member in the support of their work and the role that takes to support fully their constituents. This is in the form of equipment, i.e. laptops, internet facilities and other facilities known collectively as DSE type equipment. This is something BCBC will be looking at further as we enter the period to the new term of office. The report then highlights determination 12 from the IRWP report, namely that local authorities can apply for specific or additional senior salaries that do not fall within the current framework, subject to the criteria outlined on the bottom of page 35 of the report and overleaf. This can extend to joint overview and scrutiny committees, which the IRPW have decided to delete any payments from the framework. Determination 16, members, refers to councillors being allowed to join the local government pension scheme should they so wish, which I believe is currently the case anyway. Obviously, if a considerable number of members following the elections in 2022 take this up, there will be an added budget pressure on the council due to this. I don't believe, as of now, many members have taken up the local government pension scheme in the current term. Members, determinations 17 to 22 inclusive give information relating to members having certain entitlements relating to family absence, and these are self-explanatory. Co-opted members on committees, such as those that support the Council Standards Committee, which are lay members, and registered representatives, such as those that support the Education Scrutiny Committee, will continue to receive payments for attending meetings where there is a fixed fee for a half-day meeting that increases if the meeting runs more into a full day. Paragraph 4.11.1, members, and determination 43 relates to contributions towards costs for care and personal assistance, while paragraph 4.12.1 details the IRPW's arrangement for members' sickness absence, particularly in respect of senior salary holders. The remainder of the report, members, covers the likes of reimbursement and travel and subsistence cost, certain compliance arrangements, salaries of heads and paid service and chief officers of principal councils, including fire and rescue authorities, and criteria regarding job sharing arrangements. Before I take office to the recommendations of the report, which is to note this item and provide any feedback from the committee to the IRPW report, I wish to point out that the provision regarding assistance to the executive and determination 13 on page 65 of the papers, overleaf, whereby the local authority do have the ability to appoint through the leader elected members to support the work of cabinet, should this be deemed to be required. One more thing, members, also is personal security as a result of the tragedy in London recently is being looked at, and it is the duty of Democratic Services Committees to fund or provide support necessary to enable the council to discharge their role reasonably and safely. This may require funding appropriate security measures to protect councillors from personal risk or significant threat. Risk assessment and liaison with relevant bodies such as the police and security services would normally inform the selection of required provision, and this has been something that has been further highlighted by the WLGA in recent days in an email to myself and Laura. So it's something that's actively being looked at in light of that particular tragedy, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Mark. So can we, the recommendation is that we note the content of the report, provide any response in respect to the report, and approve any response of the committee has to be submitted by the deadline of the 26th of November. Can someone move the recommendations?
Move the report.
Thank you. And second it?
Second.
Thank you. So, does anybody have any comments they'd like to make about the report? Councillor Williams?
Okay, I'll kick off again then. I don't think we should necessarily be making any remarks on the actual sums of money which the independent remuneration panel have come up with. That's the whole purpose of an independent remuneration panel. So I don't think it should have any political interference whatsoever. However, I would say something in that I believe their considerations should have been linked to the boundary change review. I'm conscious of the fact, and perhaps I wasn't until now, that in multi-member wards, such as large urban wards, for example, I'll use this as a case in point. At the moment, Pencoed is split up into 3 different wards: Penprisk, Velindre, and Hendra. At the next boundary change, there will be 1 single ward of 3 members. Now, I know there are multi-member wards already in the county borough, but I wasn't cognizant of this fact before now. And that is, inevitably, there may be members of the council or new members of the council who are perhaps more active or more visible within their communities than others. And it will mean, inevitably, that their workload from residents of the community which they represent is greater. Now, my concern is that this professionalizes the role of a councillor, and it's going to become increasingly difficult for members of the community to come forward to be a councillor if the remuneration is set as it is, because of the workload which members in large communities will face. So, I consider myself as having quite a high workload, and I'm only in a relatively small ward of Penprisk. However, if I am to be re-elected in May, and that's a big if, it will triple the size of the community which I represent. It could therefore triple the workload which I have as well, meaning that many members may not be able to hold down other jobs. The role of a councillor is currently considered a part-time role, isn't it? It's a largely voluntary role, and you have a stipend to cover the costs of you actually undertaking your role as a councillor. But it's certainly not a professional full-time wage. So I think that ought to have been borne in mind in the independent remuneration panel's view. I won't comment on the amounts, as I said, because I don't think that's our role. But I would like them to consider that in future, the ramifications, if you like, of professionalising the role of a county borough councillor in the way they have.
Okay, thank you. I'm not sure I've got any comment with that. I think it's a really difficult situation, isn't it, with multi-member wards? I think that was, that was an issue that I brought up to the Boundary Commission, and it's difficult when 2 different departments are looking at different parts of the role. Does anyone else have any? Do you want to say anything, Mark?
Not really, Chair, because it's not for me to advise members on this, because it's not my report. What I would rather do is to collate any observations and send them on behalf of the committee to the IRWP. Okay.
Does anyone else have any comments on the report that they'd like to make? I actually had a comment about determination 10 and 11. So in the past, so this is about internet provision and electronic provision, so to speak. So in the past, so the IRP have always said that Democrat services should pay effectively for our internet connection in order for us to do our roles. And then, but then as councillors in the past, we've always said that's not necessary, kind of thing. But I'm just wondering what people think about now. We're all on Teams and we're all doing all this communication online, and I'm just wondering what people think, because it's becoming noticeable to me that certain councillors are having connection issues. So when we're in a meeting, people are dropping out, people can't get in, they can't use their cameras, you know, etc., etc. And I'm just wondering if perhaps determination 10 and 11 is something that we should look at again for certain members to upgrade their internet connection. I mean, I have no idea of the personal reasons why people can't connect. I don't know what their internet is, but I'm just wondering if perhaps it's something we should be considering. I don't know what anyone else thinks about
that. I think, Chair, to be honest with you, that this is something that this authority is going to be looking at more proactively moving forward. DSE equipment, not just kind of maybe earpieces and your Surface Pros, but more maybe chairs, you know, things like that, equipment that'll make you can get these where you type in, you can get a kind of like a support so that you're not having wrist kind of complaints developing, and other things. I think it's something that we'll be pushing for. I think all local authorities will be pushing for to look at in a bit more detail, with the mindset of providing more kind of equipment of this kind of nature for members based on their needs. So I think that we've covered that. I think that's a given, that'll play more of a part going forward, particularly, as you say, while we're working at home. And, you know, let's be honest, it's well documented that regardless of the virus, home working is working, and us, myself, Democratic, and members, we're interlinked, aren't we? We will be having meetings going forward that will remain on Teams, but we will also have meetings going forward which will be hybrid, and eventually maybe we'll be back in full swing in the council chamber, all dependent on the illness. But just a little update there on hybrid meetings. We've had a test in the committee rooms where the equipment is not brilliant, because we've got a big hub which doesn't really portray a good camera image. But I've asked IT to upgrade the cameras in the committee rooms, not on the hub, but independent of the hub. So that'll make remote meetings a bit easier. I am going slightly off the subject, Chair, but you know, I think it's useful information. Risk assessment forms are being developed for members to be sent to members to complete, where they'll have a score in, and basically any member who scores 7 or over, maybe due to age or underlying health conditions, will not be allowed in the office to attend remote meetings. So that's another thing that'll be going on. The chamber, we've got to add extra equipment in there to facilitate hybrid meetings, which will be done in January. So within the next couple of months, we will definitely be having more hybrid meetings as well as remote meetings. But aside of that, going forward, things are not going to change dramatically. You know, council employees will never be back fully in the office, in my opinion, or at least not for a very long time. I may be in 1 or 2 days a week and working from home the rest. But it's all, what I'm getting to is it's all tied in with this kind of DSE equipment and what you refer to in terms of improved internet and all that. And that is something we will be looking at going into the new election period, definitely.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Right then, so if nobody has any other comments, Moving on to item 8, which is urgent items. I don't have any urgent items. Okay, well, I will formally close the meeting then.